This quote, it's from decades ago, but it just perfectly nails this massive change that was happening. And not just in America, but all over the world. It was like a little warning shot, a sign that the very foundation of the economy was, well, it was shifting right under our feet. And fast forward to today, this isn't some passing trend. It's our reality. We've all become part of this service economy. It's an economy that's way less about making physical stuff and way more about doing things for each other. And it shapes, pretty much everything, from the job you have to how you spend your day. Okay, so here's what we've got on tap. First, we'll see how this whole service economy got started. Then, we'll try to pin down what a service actually is. We'll look at why it completely took over. And then we're going to zoom in on India as a case study, because it reveals this really fascinating puzzle about jobs. All right, first up, the service economy arrives, a fundamental shift in what we do. And to really get a handle on where we are now, you've got to go back, way back, to see how economies have changed over time. For, most of human history, everything was about primary activities, right? Farming, fishing, that kind of stuff. Then, boom, the Industrial Revolution hits and manufacturing becomes king. But after World War II, something totally new started to take over. That's the tertiary sector, or what we call the service sector. And this was a massive tipping point. The USA became the world's very first service economy. For the first time, a major nation had more people doing stuff for others than actually making physical stuff. This moment basically set the stage for the global economy we live in today. It was the path that pretty much every developed country would follow. Okay, so that brings us to our next big question. Defining the intangible. What in the world is a service? It sounds like a simple word, but the concept, it can feel a little slippery. And that's because, well, you can't actually hold it in your hand. Here's a great definition from Philip Kotler. The key word here, the one that changes everything, is intangible. A service is something you can't touch. We're talking about experiences, benefits, activities, not a physical thing you can own and put on a shelf. And this chart just lays it out perfectly. Look at the difference between goods and services. A good, like a car, is tangible. You can touch it, you own it, you can park it in your garage for later. But a service, like a taxi ride, totally intangible. It's an experience. You don't own the car, right? You can't store the ride for later, and it's produced and consumed at the exact same time. That right there, that's the whole ballgame. All right, moving on. Why services took over. This gets to the social and economic drivers of this whole change. So if services are the dominant force in our economy, the billion-dollar question is why? How did this happen? Well, it wasn't an accident. This huge shift was fueled by some really profound changes in how we all live and work. It boils down to a few key things. As societies got wealthier, people started having more disposable income and more free time. So what did they do? They started paying for things they used to do themselves. Laundry service, home repair, you name it. At the same time, you had more women entering the workforce, which created a huge demand for things like childcare. And on top of all that, our lives just got more complicated. The products we use, the rules we live by, we suddenly needed specialists for everything, from fixing a car engine to getting legal advice. Now, to see all these forces really come to life, there's no better case study than what's happening in India right now. It's a true services superpower in the making. Just look at this chart. It really puts the global scale of this thing into perspective. You've got the US, a really mature service economy, sitting up there at around 80% of its GDP. But look at India. Its service sector is already a whopping 62% of its economy. That is an incredibly fast transformation. It's just stunning. And get this, India isn't just serving its own people. Oh no. It is a major, major player on the world stage. We're talking a top 10 exporter of commercial services. A huge part of that is driven by its absolute powerhouse IT sector. The folks who keep businesses around the world running. But, and this is a really big but, this incredible growth story comes with a fascinating and super critical puzzle. It's about the difference between economic value and the jobs that get created. And it's a puzzle that a lot of developing nations are trying to solve right now. Okay, check this out. The service sector, it makes up over half, 54%, of India's entire gross value added. That's basically a measure of all the economic value being created in the country. But then, look at this number. That same incredibly valuable sector only accounts for about a third of all the jobs in the country. See the gap? So the big question is, if the service sector is so valuable, why hasn't it created more jobs? That gap is huge. And what it tells us is that while India's high-tech service industries are incredibly valuable and productive, they're not necessarily built to hire millions and millions of people. They just haven't been able to absorb the massive workforce coming from, say, agriculture at the rate you'd expect given their economic clout. And this really reveals a key challenge facing a lot of places. Growth in economic value doesn't always equal growth in mass employment. Just because a sector is making a ton of money doesn't mean it's creating a ton of jobs. Figuring out how to bridge that gap, that's the real key to making sure everyone benefits. So let's wrap this up. What are the key takeaways here? First, our world has fundamentally shifted from an economy of goods to one of services. Second, remember that services are intangible. They're experiences, not physical things you own. Third, this whole shift was driven by huge societal changes, like getting wealthier and our lives getting more complex. And finally, the story of India is just a perfect example of both the incredible power of services and the tough challenge of creating enough jobs for everyone. And that leaves us with one final big question to chew on. As things like automation and AI keep transforming the service sector, what new kinds of jobs and skills are going to define the economy of tomorrow? Because this revolution, it's not over, not by a long shot. The very definition of a service job is about to change all over again.